Continue and bring back to order the City of Oconomowoc Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, November 21st, 2023. The Common Council was in closed session on items 1A and B, and now we're back into council chambers for an open session for the discussion of the draft policy 23-003 for the flock LPR camera system. Captain?
I'll just jump in real quick.
Oh, you bet.
As the captain walks up. So this goes back to the start of our budget conversations. We talked about the flock camera. Seemed that there was interest in it. A couple things the council wanted was that we had a public information meeting, and the other one was that we would have a policy for the data. So we have held the public information meeting, and we sent out this draft policy because no one had seen it until this for the committee of the whole. We're making tonight just for discussion, to get comments, and if everything looks favorable, we will be bringing it back at a later council meeting for final action on it. The reason why it's here for action, being that it's a policy, and I checked with Attorney Riffle, our police commission cannot approve policy. So any policy needs to be here for approval.
Right.
So that's why the item is here tonight, and it's a policy and not an ordinance. So. With that,
Captain Tim.
Yeah, so based off your recommendation, Council, we put a policy together. I think you guys all have it in front of you. I'm willing to take any questions, suggestions to draft this. Chief and I have worked with Attorney Riffle here in the last few days. We have made some minor changes here that may not be in your current policy, but I'm more than happy to talk about that. And again, any feedback you guys have would be great as we continue to build this and make it a really great policy.
What were the changes you made?
So if you look at number, I guess I'll start on the first page. On definitions under hot list, we added under B for hot list, we added silver alerts right after the amber alerts. If everybody's familiar with what a silver alert is?
Yeah,
Okay, so that was on that page.
I got this. Thank you.
That's what sheet goes missing.
this shows where
What's that?
I understand, but
Would you-
I'm gonna write it in.
If you want, yeah.
I mean, this might be something for Stan,
appreciate
actually. I don't do a ton of open records stuff, but on page 5D7A, open records request for flock data that was created with OPD leased flock equipment will not be fulfilled by this agency. Do we have a right to refuse open record requests?
I made a comment on all that.
Oh,
I don't know where my comments are.
okay. That's okay.
I did a bunch of comments about, about the fact that we need to
We have to comply with state
comply
law.
with the
no?
open records law, yeah.
Yeah, we have to comply with that, correct.
Okay, so I don't think
Where is
that
that,
it's
Matt?
all filed into that, so I'm sorry, I just
That's okay.
sent that out.
Well,
like
I mean, it's one of the first things that just caught
Yep,
my eye.
no, you're right.
Because I think we can tell them
Here's our 5.
that we can direct them to the agency that owns the data. This is on page 5, Kevin,
I see it.
right at the top of it.
Yep.
But I still think we have to comply with Wisconsin open records laws, and
right.
if somebody requests it, we may have to provide it.
And there's a very big issue related to whatever contract we have with the agency that we're working with, because I had to deal with this with Village of Sussex and a huge $100,000 fight about whether or not we are the record keeper. It's the data.
Right.
Right. So you're aware of that, and that's what I raised. So I don't know where we're at on all that.
So I do think we need to probably revise that section, Captain.
I'm sorry, which section is that?
Yeah, it's the top of page 5, D7A. I think we should just simplify it and say open records requests will be fulfilled pursuant to state law.
Correct, I think that's what you had actually mentioned, Attorney Riffle, so we have that actually noted here.
Okay, so that'll be a revision.
This was just, Attorney Riffle came back on late Monday with some of his recommendations, which is why you guys probably don't have the current one that we're still
That's
working
okay.
on. But
My
we'll take any
suggestions will
feedback
likely
as well.
be the same as his.
Okay,
And then data requests by the next section B, conducting a legitimate investigation may be fulfilled. That to me sounds like it could be any law enforcement agency, so we should just be aware of that as we're going through this, that, we're saying, and I don't know that we can refuse a request from a law enforcement agency. I suppose we could. Couldn't we?
Yeah, well, I don't, go
Without
ahead.
a subpoena. Right?
we have and we can, correct. Yep, they would need to get a, yep.
I mean, here's the thing, if we're gonna be part of the flock system, and there's other communities around us with the flock system, obviously, I voted against it for a variety of reasons. But if we're gonna be part of the system, we wanna be able to work with New Berlin and Elm Grove and whoever's got them to, you know, share those hot lists and those things,
Well,
right?
why don't we identify those proactively then? The ones that we want to, all state of Wisconsin law enforcement agency, and I think that brings back to like broader comments that I have about this is like, I think the policy is great, first of all, but the policy, I don't think is necessarily getting at, in some of the issues, it's getting at the crux of our concerns, but this policy is how, you guys are handling it. Like, we trust our police department, we think you guys are doing the right thing.
Right.
The concerns that I have, and that I think there was other concerns, was like outside agencies and how they can access our data. Part of that is through the customer service agreement, isn't it, that we have through Flock? And so that's my one thing, is don't we have some sort of customer service agreement that we're gonna sign with Flock as to how our data can be used, how long it's gonna be stored for, all that kind of stuff? So that would be the one comment I have there where I think it needs to get addressed. And the other part is, I think we should have the policy. I think the policy is great. But at the end of the day, I still do think there should be a broad ordinance as to how this technology is incorporated into the community. Not in terms of execution maybe, but an ordinance. Are we gonna tell people through ordinance where the location of the camera is? I know Chief had said he doesn't have a problem of where, of saying where it publicly, of, where these camera locations are. Do we want to put that in an ordinance? The amount of days that we're storing our data, is that going to be in an ordinance or not? Right now, it's set at 30 days. Are we keeping it at 30 days? Is that what we think the right amount of days is?
Well,
I know
I-
that's the standard user agreement with Flock, but can that be discussed with Flock?
Yeah.
So that's another piece. Who can access it? So that wouldn't necessarily, maybe that wouldn't be in the ordinance, but is that part of the customer service agreement? I would think with Flock, as to all the other agencies that are gonna be able to,
Well, we would have to give permission for any other agency besides us
okay,
for that.
well, so that would be like a good policy thing to me. Because right now, as it stands, like, if someone from, like, some California agency or whatever it is, they could get our stuff right now, right?
We would have to give them that permission, otherwise
Yeah,
no.
we'd have to give them, but I think to me, it's like, why don't we just say straight up
They
that,
have to meet our criteria.
yeah, that's
So the
true.
criteria that's in our policy, if they're not meeting that criteria, our answer is flat out no.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way we're gonna release or have anybody look at that footage. And even then, we still have the right to deny them access to that.
I get leery there, and I just want to make sure there's very, kind of strict safeguards in place to make sure there's legitimate, law enforcement purpose, like you had said, but what does that exactly mean when it comes down to it? And I guess when it comes down to it, it's the building of the hot list and then the search itself, right? So we're building a hot list, we're creating hot lists. Those are like identifying the cars that we're gonna go after, right? Is the hot list itself, like if that comes up on a Flock, that's
So
popping hot, right?
There's the general hot list that comes from the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah,
Okay,
and that's the
that-
NCIS or NCIC,
NCIC,
yeah.
Right, that comes from them, and they'll set it up where that loads all the time. Then we can add any vehicle to that list, so if we have a known, a case that involves a known drug dealer that's armed.
Right.
Okay, we could put that vehicle specifically in, so that if they drive into our community, it alerts us they're in our
So
community.
would there already be a case number associated that? And
Yes.
so part of this is requiring a case number?
Absolutely.
Okay, and
Correct.
so
There
those,
has to be an case already started.
Right.
I can't just say, I want to put your plate in to
Right.
see. I can't do that.
well, and because that was gonna be the other question though, is like, so we have our hot list, that's gonna pop a flag basically on any car that's on that list that passes a camera, right? But then what if there's just someone who wants to go in and look for a license plate on that camera that's not necessarily on the hot list?
Cannot be done. It's gotta be legit law enforcement.
So the plate has to, well, I don't know about that, but I'm just saying, so for our purposes though, the plate has to be on the hot list, you're saying, for an officer to go in and search that, for that
Well,
vehicle right now?
It has to be associated to a case, okay? So average Joe wants open records, says, I want to see if my plate showed up on your flock camera. The answer is no.
Right.
Because I can't search that by our policy that's out there and the flock policy as well, being that we can't search that.
What if somebody
So-
wanted to do it on their own though? And I'm like, hey, I want to know if my own
That's
data.
what I mean, you can't. I cannot search it for that for you.
But if
I
But what if the
cannot do
policy
that.
allowed it? What if we said, or should that be allowed? Should we want to be people to know if they are on
I
it?
think if we allow that, then the sky's the limit. We've opened it up to
It's bad to
the
let people
world.
know if they're on it.
That's a slippery
Yeah,
slope.
okay.
Because the trust is there is, I can't do it. So you know I cannot look to see how many times you came in and out of Oconomowoc through that corridor. You know, if we start opening it up to, hey, well, you can check how many times you came through and then I do this, now we're opening that Pandora's box of, it's really Big Brother, you know, because now everybody and anybody can see, you know, anything. We want to confine it to, it's related to simply, it has to be an open investigation, a case. That is the only time, and that's pretty much standard through every community, is you have to have that case number to go in and to authorize it to look for that.
Okay. No, that's a solid,
So there, but if there's a license plate, right, so if someone though there's a stolen vehicle out there, or we've identified through a security camera that someone robbed, you know, whatever, Burn Boot Camp or the YMCA, and we've got a license plate associated, we can enter that in.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then that will automatically pop for you guys, like, hey,
Correct.
he's on 67.
Correct. Like, for example, the other night in Waukesha, they had a carjacking at Walmart that hit on a flock camera on West Avenue in Waukesha. So they had a description of the vehicle, but not a plate. They were able to get that plate real quickly. A pursuit and kind of started, went quite a long distance, but they were able to get the suspects in custody. But that hit off a flock camera as well. So that's the pros that we're hoping in the next year we can kind of get find. And tell
what
you
I'd like
guys
to do
it's been
is-
successful.
What I'd like to do is make a few technical changes for you guys and make a few suggestions and get, you know, it's already been voted on, so it's going in. I think you can eliminate 7A altogether and just under 7, say, open records request for VR data shall be forwarded to the captain. Any open records request will be responded to as required by state law. And just leave it, you don't need any more, anything else, in my opinion.
Can you send me all your changes, Alderman
Yeah.
Rozak?
Yeah,
And
I will.
then that way I can get it incorporated. And for the whole council, this is discussion.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Already done it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and.
Well, let's
and-
compare whatever I got and what you
Yep.
got, and we'll.
But this
throw
is
it in.
meant for discussion. Any comments that anybody wants to incorporate in the policy and want us to review before we bring it back, get them to me. We'll incorporate everything in there, and we can bring back the policy at.
So theoretically, could an officer right now search, though, any plate they wanted on those flock cameras? And if they did, would there be an audit of that search that would take place?
No.
They cannot.
Well, first of all, only certain individuals will be able to access it.
Yeah, but I think it's the officer on duty, right? I mean,
No.
we're basically giving it.
No, the way it reads
Officers
is,
shall log into the flock-based web
but you
at the
gotta
start
read
of their
ear-
shift
you
and
gotta
operate
read
the software
earlier.
as trained.
Only authorized individuals, officers, have a right to access the system. And what I had proposed was we make clear who appoints those individuals. I assume it's the chief. And so I've already given a bunch of recommendations here.
I
that-
don't care. Great. I haven't seen them.
So,
I'm still talking about it.
I'm
Good for you.
sorry, but you don't have the latest and the greatest, but no.
So
No
let's-
officer
let's,
can access that, period.
So-
And they can only access it for specific purposes that are specified in.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just trying to understand if there's an outlier, if there's an audit of that, if there's a way to audit it. That's all I'm saying. Is there, you know?
So
say
can
we're
I
on-
ask, can I,
It's not a database. I mean, it seems like, I mean, the.
Yes, it is. Every,
so I think the
that-
question, Chaz, can I rephrase your question? Chief, if an authorized officer looks up something, is there an audit trailer that is that authorized officer that's doing it? So if you have 4 people that are authorized, I can tell you it's Fred, Ginger, whoever, and Gilligan? Okay.
There is automatic audit that's generated in the background.
Okay.
That I would have access to, so I could find out who ran it.
So,
'cause I
so
just wanna-
kind of, I want to make sure we have the audit, but it also seems like there have been some edits and changes that none of us have seen.
Right.
So
and
I
here's what
think,
I'd like to preface. this. The city attorney was given this. We got it back with his remarks as well. This is for everybody else to remark as well, so that, you know, we can bring it back. So it's not that we're not showing you what
No,
the city
I didn't
attorney's
think that at
remarks
all.
are.
Yeah.
We got some of them, you know, and we'll look at those
Yeah.
and bring it back.
I just think, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page, because basically, I mean, at least the way I understand it, every single time I pass the camera, you know, my license plate is logged. So you could search my license plate anytime you wanted to figure out when I passed that camera. Right, that's, yeah, right, and that, exactly. And I'm just saying though, if allowed as in per our rules, but if it did happen, we would catch that it happened.
We would catch that.
Yes, that's all I'm saying. Exactly.
Yes.
Like, physically, you could still do it. It's just, it would be, well, I don't know if illegal, probably would be illegal. It'd be definitely unauthorized, all those things. Yeah, so that's all I'm saying, is making sure we just have our,
Do we put an
Check the
audit,
checkers.
do you want to put an audit section? I mean, they could add an audit section that access will be audited on a, you know, I don't know, bi-yearly basis or something, you know, there would be an audit of access. I mean, you could add something very simple like that.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, what
the
does
chief
that
or
look
the
like?
captain in charge of the system.
Honestly, I don't, yeah, we'll look at it.
We can
because
definitely add it.
I have no problem with even being a monthly, you know, because it's very easy to run the audit.
Yep.
So we can run it to make sure, hey, yep,
Hasn't
these
been-
numbers match up,
Yep.
and this is what they.
That'd be a great idea. Jennifer's been waiting a long time here, guys. Jennifer wanted to speak, so I'm gonna,
Actually,
shift.
some of my questions already got answered through some of the conversation, but in here, it keeps using the, shut up. The language, like legitimate law enforcement purposes. So, like searches for the flock system data are limited to legitimate law enforcement purposes. So, but when you refer to that as like something that has a case number, or like, just the language in the policy to me just seems like tomorrow you could wake up and decide legitimate law enforcement purposes are knowing how many times Chaz drives in and out of the city.
If there's an active investigation for Chaz.
Yeah, if there's an active investigation,
Well,
we would be,
case numbers.
we would be looking at that.
You know, I
Let me
just,
put it this way, if we get that he's driving recklessly throughout the city every single day, that could be an active case. Now, that's an extreme, like,
I know.
okay, you know,
Yeah.
idea. But it's hard for us to put any other language in there without curbing it, you know what I mean? That's kind of the general language that, basically, we're forming upon law, is saying that there needs to be a law that's out there. Obviously, if someone were to
Okay.
create a different law, we could
but it's not
certainly
just the
stop.
law of
Yeah.
Chief Pfister's imagination.
It's
or-
not my-
okay, so it is law.
No, we don't want to go there.
Okay, and then my other question was, who is going to have access to the system?
It would be myself, the lieutenant, the captain, and we'd have the 3 sergeants.
So the 3 sergeants. And
So, right, just our command staff. is
Okay,
who's gonna
so
have that
what if
access.
a sergeant is not on duty, like, you know, what is,
The sergeant is not on duty, they would contact the sergeant off duty or the lieutenant on duty, who could authorize them to get in, but they would be
You guys
given
always
a
have-
specific,
but
they
they
wouldn't
have-
have that access,
They
right?
always have to have a supervisor command staff on for all shifts, so there has to be at least.
So they
lieutenant
wouldn't have an
captain or
access portal where they could go in, they would be given an
be
access
very
portal
locked
to it.
down on who has access and.
Chief, I think with this being a new tool, it might be nice if 6 or 8 months down the road, just pop in and say how it's going.
That was part of the
and what we
discussion when we
learn.
voted on it, was that we'd get a year, a report in a year. about-
No?
Every 6 months.
No, absolutely, absolutely, we will.
Yeah,
Here for that
Yeah.
meeting, we said
I
absolutely.
just want to make sure we don't
Yeah.
lose it,
No, absolutely, we will keep you updated.
because you're starting a policy and you
Do
still may
a
tweak it
staff
down the
report
road.
on it, and-
I'll look at, Stan sent me his changes, I'll look at those too. My other big concern is 7B. One of my concerns was nefarious agencies and the federal government getting access. And right now, what we're saying is data requests by law enforcement agencies conducting a legitimate investigation. I don't necessarily want to open up our flock cameras to ATF, FBI, blah, 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 name your 3-letter agency in the federal government. So what I would like to see there is a change, and I can't think of the language right off the top of my head, but that we're willing to share our information with other law enforcement agencies conducting a legitimate investigation that are part of the flock system. You know, so neighboring agencies that are part of the flock system, I think that makes sense, right? If they've got a hot list for a child rapist in New Berlin, and, you know, we can share that hot list, we can, you know, we want to do that with the system. I don't necessarily want the ATF having access to it. And I think you could add language in there, you know, except for, you know, in the case of a subpoena or a court order. You know, that's what I would like to see in B, to limit the use by federal agencies, at least creating that additional,
Keeping as much control local.
yeah,
But see-
exactly.
See, here's my question about that, though. Is that a policy thing or an ordinance thing?
Well, I
Because, I
think-
mean, our last thing we say here is exceptions to the policy may be authorized.
Well, I'm
you know?
getting there. I agree with you. I do think that somehow we need to codify a more simpler version of this in an ordinance with at least the basic tenets of it. But a policy is the good way to start because we can experiment with it and then we can incorporate it
Yeah,
into an
it's-
ordinance.
Doesn't become.
Yeah, I don't think it's a
No,
good
you don't
idea
want
to
this
do now.
Why don't you want this as an ordinance?
Here's my preference. I would like to see us, let's do the policy, and we come back in 8 months, and we can give a report. And I think if we need to, at that point, create an ordinance, because I don't want to create an ordinance, and then we have to constantly be changing the ordinance
that's what-
because of things.
That's
I'm not a huge, this would be like the first time, I think, ever on a piece of equipment, we're creating an ordinance in the city. I don't, you know, so I'm just, I have a little.
We have a
where are we
drone
going?
policy. I guess we have a drone policy, but not a drone ordinance.
Correct.
Well, we should have a drone ordinance, not for the, just in general.
Yeah,
but-
right. Interesting. So, no,
Well, we don't have a drone, that's Western Lakes Fire.
Yeah,
so
no,
you're
but I
better-
don't
Don't
mean
have
for
it
you guys,
anymore.
I mean just for general, we
Right.
should have a drone ordinance.
I don't disagree. I'm fine with that. I just suggested that too, is that we wait to do an ordinance if we think it's needed, you know, after a reporting period. And it could be a very basic stripped down version that incorporates the main, you know, who has access.
How long the
auditing.
data is stored.
Right, and then you leave the rest of the policy to your discretion. I don't like, and this is not, again, a slight on the police department. I don't like exceptions to this policy may be authorized by the chief of police. If you, now, I don't know what your other policies look like, if you.
That's what's written on every policy, so
Is it?
that if something comes up, I am authorized to immediately change it.
Yeah, and that
So,
is, so that. I
It
mean,
doesn't
then-
happen.
Yeah, I understand that, but it
Yeah.
just functionally.
And I have no problem taking that away. I mean,
Yeah.
I have no problem of even saying that if changes were made, that it has to come back to this body.
Well, that would be,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't
if-
have an
and
issue with that.
I think a significant change of the policy should come back, you know, if there, we could craft something that says in an emergency situation. First of all, I think in an emergency situation, you have an officer calling, hey, we have an active whatever shooter, here's his plates, and it doesn't fit nicely into the policy, you're gonna get that into the hot list and get it so we can catch the guy, you know?
It's just kind of a standard firm, all of us, that's phrase that all of us chiefs.
Yeah,
policy.
but when you create that kind of exception in the language, though, it's not really a policy anymore. It becomes more arbitrary. So, you know, that's just me as an elected official and someone. So I think we should craft some changes there. Otherwise, I think overall the policies looks really good and it's a good start, so.
Any other comments from council members?
And can we get that contract, that service contract? Can we see it at least? That whatever we sign with Flock? So
Yeah,
at least
we
know
have
what it
that
looks like?
contract. We also have the storage location that has all the criteria, again, that matches the highest level of security that the FBI, you know, the highest that's out there as
Okay.
well
That's
for the
the
storage.
AWS,
So-
Amazon Web Services.
So,
Did we sign already with Flock? Is
So-
that done?
we signed the purchase
Okay.
on it, but everything else is, yeah.
The user agreement or whatever it is? Okay.
So we'll have Chief and Mark, or Captain and Mark, work on getting that information together and how to get it to you. Other comments? I think, Karen?
Yeah, kind of a quick comment and question. This looks very comprehensive, and I agree with the changes. My question is, did you guys start this from scratch, or did you have a boilerplate or an example from another community or whatever that you kind of built on?
We actually pulled, I think roughly about 10 different communities' policies and kind of went through each one. And we all highlighted, you know, we went through
Sure.
and found parts that we were like, yes, this is what is good for our community and so forth on that. But I think a good part of it, I forgot which.
Yeah, so basically, like, right now, 97 communities in the state of Wisconsin have Flock. I've reached out, this is a major project of mine for my command college right now, so I've reached out to over 24 of them, and most of them have actually responded back with their policies. Chief and I and LT, we were kind of looking through some stuff that fit for us, some stuff that didn't
Yep.
fit, and kind of put it all together, because that's, if you read all the policies in all the different areas, jurisdictions, they're pretty similar. So
Sure,
it's just
and-
one of those where you mix match for your
Yeah.
community.
And that's what I figured. Would it be worthwhile then, as we're potentially considering an ordinance, for you to reach out to some of those to see if they've actually gone to that next step of creating an ordinance?
And I actually have asked that question. I've got the 0 for just a policy right now. Doesn't mean we couldn't do one, but I think, as Chief said, I think with only the 1-year contract, we kind of want to come back to you guys.
Sure.
And tell you, yep, this is working great, or here's what we need to fix, and kind of go from there and see what you guys think from there.
Thank you.
Great. Any other comments, questions?
Just going to confirm that 6-month update, though? We will get a update on
Is
how
that,
it's
if that's
going?
you, 6 months? Is that what?
Or, I mean, what is the,
Yeah.
do we have that set?
Once it goes live too, you want to get all the data, so I think 6 to 8 months, somewhere around there.
Okay.
It might be a 6-month report of
Because
operations, but
we're
it could be in
still,
the 8 months.
6 to 8 weeks for even the equipment, even considering being close by, so we're still a
Okay.
couple months out
That's why
from
it's
even
8
implement
months out.
this
Okay.
program.
Great.
True. Yeah. We just want to know how it's going,
Yeah.
obviously.
Absolutely.
Very much, gentlemen. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
If I can't read your writing,
Motion to adjourn. Oh,
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We have about 7 minutes, and we'll start promptly at 7:30 with the Common Council meeting. Get started. I think we have everybody back. Jennifer's there. Good. Okay.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's probably done. Yeah, yeah.
Welcome to the City of Oconomowoc Common Council for Tuesday, November 21st, 2023. Has appropriate meeting notification been made?
Yes, Your Honor, it has.
If we'd please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call roll, please.
Alderman Maroney,
Here.
Alderman Douglas, Alderman Rozak,
Here.
Alderman Altman-Cloth.
Here.
Alderman Ellis. Here. Alderman Spiegelberg.
Here.
Alderman Mulder. Here. Alderman Shellpepper.
Here.
Without objection, I'd like to move forward item 6, mayoral appointments with council confirmation. Any objections?
So moved.
Second.
There's no need to do
sorry.
that, but thank you, that was nice. So we're going to first start off with our first mayoral appointment for the Community Development Authority, Dan Rogers. Dan, could you come up to the podium, please? Thank you for coming in. As you remember, Dan was out of town 2 weeks ago on Tuesday. I was happy to come in today. So you have any question for Dan?
Dan, thanks for coming in. I always like to see people in person, just ask them a few questions. What is your, do you have any connection to development at all? Do you have any knowledge about development? Any background in real estate or anything?
Not in real estate, but I have a mechanical contracting firm.
Can you speak into the microphone,
I have
please?
a mechanical contracting firm that does the work for some developers and some general contractors, but I'm not in the front line.
Perfect. And how long have you lived in the community?
I first moved in the community in '87, and then we moved to Summit for 20 years, and then we
Sorry
moved
about
back.
that. I'm sorry to hear that.
I miss it so much, I moved back
Okay,
in
good.
19. So.
Okay. Well, welcome. Thanks for putting your name in. It's always good to get some new blood on some of these boards. Appreciate it.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Oh, I just want to say welcome, too. I'll be serving with you on CDA, so thanks for throwing your hat in the ring, and congratulations.
Great. Any other comments or questions?
Thanks for volunteering and being willing to serve and take time out of your schedule to be here tonight.
Well, thank you, Dan. I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved, Rozak.
Second, Ellis.
Call roll, please.
Alderman Maroney,
Aye.
Alderman Alderman Rozak,
Aye.
Alderman Altman-Cloth,
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
I did talk to all of them and told them to vote no, but I thought we better not do
They
that.
don't listen to you, right?
Welcome, and thank you for putting your time into the community. Thank you, Dan. Our next mayoral appointment is for the utility manager, Kevin Kari. Kevin, would you come up? I see your family's joined, and it's wonderful that you're all here. Council, he's here for any, what?
Can I jump in with a couple?
I could do a
Yes,
short
our
introduction.
city administrator would like to make a couple comments.
So I just want to let, talk to the council. This process, with a lot of work from Tony from HR's, probably been about 6 months in the working. And, whenever we go into any hire in the city, but especially when we're looking at a department head, we want to make sure that we bring in, the best person for the position. And sometimes that takes a while, as in this case. But you may remember, I don't want to toot my own horn, but it took a year to replace me for Director of Public Works, and we settled. But,
I was going to say we got an improvement.
But, from the minute we first interviewed Kevin, I've just been so impressed with him, his knowledge of the electrical systems and engineering, the things that he's done. But more importantly, the why he did what he did was what truly impressed me, because I looked at this. He was never happy being just part of a program. He wanted to be understanding of the whole program, and his time here, he's going to be able to identify things that we need to be doing with our utilities, put that action in place and make sure it gets constructed properly, and be there at the end to flip the switch, turn the valve, or whatever it is. So once again, I know that Tony, and I speak for him as well as myself, we've just been very impressed and look forward to Kevin being part of our team here. So.
Great. Kevin, can you, for the community, just give us a little introduction. Tell us a little bit about your background. You are on camera, so welcome.
Well, thank you. First of all, yeah, I'm Kevin Kari. I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Marquette University. I also have a master's in business and a certificate in project management from the Keller Graduate School of Management. And I also have a professional engineering license for the state of Wisconsin. When I first became aware of the job opportunity a couple months ago, even though the process was 6 months, what excited me immediately was the variety of duties associated with this job position. The person in this position has to wear a lot of hats and watch a lot of things. And I thought it meant and matched up well with my 33 years that I have in the utility business. So I started with Commonwealth Edison back in 1990, worked with them for 5.5 years. I had 2.5 years at Cooper Power Systems designing electrical pad-mounted transformers. In the last 25 years, I've worked in various capacities at We Energies. When I interviewed with Tony Posnick, Mark Fry, and Mayor Magnus, and got the opportunity to meet many of the council members, what drew me in further to wanting to have this position was the strong emphasis of team and community here at the city of Oconomowoc. Both of these ideals are very important to me, and I can't think of a better way to finish my career than being part of something for the greater good. I know opportunities like this are rare, and I truly feel blessed to be considered for the utility manager position in the city of Oconomowoc tonight. I'm excited and ready for this position and can't wait to start. Before I end, I'd like to also say thanks. During my career, I had the opportunity to work with many great peers, mentors, and supervisors who taught me a lot. I've also been blessed to work for We Energies for 25 years. This company gave me many opportunities to grow and has always been a great place for me to work. I'm truly thankful for everything my coworkers in We Energies have done for me. And I think this is my next chapter, hopefully.
Well, thank you very much. Council members, comments for our appointee?
It's great to see you again. I'm glad you're back. I think your credentials are impeccable, so.
Thanks, Andy.
Yep.
Alderman Rozak?
Yeah, Kevin, thanks for coming in. I think we've come a long way in the city on this process of putting in new directors, and the mayor's done a really good job of getting folks in front of us, getting us a chance to interview them, and you did that in this instance. I got a chance to interview you for about 40 minutes, and one of the things I always say, and I do a lot of hiring and sometimes firing at my job, you never really know how someone's going to work until they're hired and working. You can interview them and you can try to find someone that's great, but you really don't know until you start working. But you hope that during that interview process you connect and you feel like you connect with the community and that you fit with the community and the job that you're being offered. And I do feel that you fit this role in this community. I also was impressed that you came with ideas and not to have a pun, but energy. And some goals and aspirations for the role. So I wish you the best of luck. You'll have my vote.
Thank you, Matt.
Alderman Altman-Cloth?
I know that, and this is not a dig to any of our more recent hires, but I have to say, I think this is one of the first times I remember a family coming to this, and I think that that's very impressive and just shows a good, strong family behind you, which you'll need in this role, so.
Would you like to introduce your family for us, please?
Yes, actually, I would. My wife, Lori, of 26 years, my son, Nicholas, who's a senior at Catholic Memorial High School, my daughter, Alicia, who's a second grade teacher at Lake Country Classical Academy, and my daughter, Jamie, who is a senior in nursing school at St. Louis University.
Great. Is there anything you want to say on behalf of your dad or not?
You
No,
guys look
I
very proud
echo.
of your dad. Yeah.
I echo your comments, Alderman Altman-Cloth. That's wonderful. Other questions, comments from? Well, we're really fortunate to have you, and one of the things that I really enjoyed is my wife and I had you and Lori over for dinner, and we just sat down and we talked. And you're
It was
very
an
real
enjoyable night.
people. You're very entrenched in our community already, and I think you're going to really enjoy working with all of these folks in the months and the years ahead because the city has an incredible staff, and you're a great addition. So I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
So moved, Altman Cloth?
Second.
Any further discussions, comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman-Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
When is your, for the public, when's your first day?
The planned first day is January 8th, 2024.
Great. Have a wonderful holiday season, and to the family, welcome to Oconomowoc.
Everyone have a great Thanksgiving, too.
You too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
I have one additional item to bring forward without objection. I'd like to bring forward item 11A, consider act on resolution 23-R3160, authorizing the issuance and sales of $6,615,000 general obligation promissory note, series 2023A. Lori Sullivan Murray.
Thank you. This is just a reminder, we did do the authorization for this borrowing at our October meeting, a couple of meetings ago. I just wanted to remind you what the borrowing is for. So we have two parts. The first part is the $3.3 million for the Old Highlander TIF district. And the second, which will be fully paid by the TIF district, the debt service will be. And then the second part is the $2.9 million for the Oconomowoc Parkway sanitary sewer expansion. We are borrowing, even though it's sewer funds, we are borrowing because it is fully funded special assessment. So we're not tying up the sewer funds. The payments are made completely by special assessments. With that reminder, the bids did go out today, and Phil Cosson from Ellers is here to talk to you about the bid results, and I've got a paper to hand out. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Lori. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Phil Costin with Ellers. Good to be with you.
I have this on here for you.
Oh. Thank you. I'll wait for Lori to, do you want me to tell a joke or anything while I'm waiting for Lori?
If you have a good one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Is it a lawyer joke?
You got a lot of lawyer jokes, Dan, yeah.
That would be the best.
That's all I know.
Thank you, ma'am.
I mean, I can tell a couple of jokes, you know, just.
No, thank you.
Nope.
No.
You nope. We all.
Phil, let's go forward.
Quick. Well, as Lori indicated, we took bids today at 10 o'clock. It's our normal process. So last month, Greg Johnson from our office was here, and you authorized the sale. Since that time, a couple of things have occurred. One, we prepared what's called an official statement, prospectus on the city. And then to get to that, once that was done, we had a rating call with Moody's Investor Service. So I wanted to first thank Lori and Bob and Mark. They participated in that call and did a great job representing the city. And so the rating report I'll start with, because it continues to be great news. If we go to the last couple of pages of this document, you'll see the rating report is attached. And I'm just going to highlight a few items really quick on the rating report, just on the first page, because they do a good job summary on the first page of the report. So number one, and most important, you retained your AA1 status. Challenge to get the AAA is going to be just size of community as much as anything else. If you look at other AAA communities, about 6 of them in the state of Wisconsin, much larger tax base, that'll probably be the biggest hurdle for you. But I think there's a lot of trends that are in your favor. So credit strengths really have remained the same. Growing economic base with strong resident incomes, healthy reserves and modest leverage. The leverage is really your debt outstanding obligations that you have that are either taken on now or planned for the future. Credit challenges, limited revenue raising flexibility due to imposed levy limits. Well, that's everybody in the state of Wisconsin. You're not unique there. Yet you've been able to manage under levy limits very well. And then exposure to tax increment districts, I would say that's not really a challenge. It's just managing that to make sure that in every case, whenever we're looking at a new district or implementing existing districts, we want to make sure that they are fully funding themselves along the way. So that's what they've identified. We spent a little bit of time talking capital projects as well with them, so they know what's coming on the horizon. So great news, and it's a big shout out to the whole team that really puts that information out in front of Moody's and is prepared. Bob puts together a very large document that goes out highlighting all the developments and kind of wows Moody's whenever they get to see that. So great information. So again, today at 10 o'clock, we took bids on the 2 projects that Lori outlined. We had 11 bids. That's the most bids I've seen in a long time. Now, I think there's 2 reasons for it. One, this is a relatively large issue, very highly rated over a short period of time. That's attractive to bidders. 2, it's Thanksgiving week, not a lot of competition out there. When we looked at all the sales that were happening nationwide, there weren't a lot. So you weren't competing a great deal. I wouldn't have wanted to sell on the day before Thanksgiving, but 2 days before seemed to work out really well. So the 11 bids was, we just kind of said, wow, when we saw that number. We had 9 set up initially 2 hours before, and 2 more jumped in. Mesero Financial out of Chicago was the winning bid. The low bid was 3.4779%, and the high bid of the 11 was 3.7418%. So one of the things you're going to see as I go through this is we typically have seen and continue to see what are called premium bids. And premium bids just means, because how they mark up bonds to sell in the secondary market, they actually provide you with more money than you're looking for. In return for that, you have a couple of options what you can do with that money. So we got the bids, we found out there was a premium, and we start talking to Lori and Mark to make sure that we apply it as they want to see as well. So it really went 3 different places. One, tax increment district number 7 has some capitalized interest that is associated with it, meaning because you're not going to have increment coming from the amended area for a period of time, and you have bond payments due before that revenue comes in, we want to capitalize the interest payments, borrow the money for those interest payments, essentially, meaning you don't have to tap into your fund balance or general fund to be able to pay for that. So we wanted to make sure the capitalized interest was fully funded. 2, the sewer utility is going to have a little bit of debt service reserve funds that are going to be applied to that fund to help make a portion of the interest payment. And the rest really got used to downsize the issue, to reduce the amount of the bonds that are being issued. So the amount, when we had them go out to bid, the authorized was $6,650,000. And what you'll see in that final resolution today that came from Quarles and Brady is that the amount is $6,250,000. So we took a lot of that premium and we used it to reduce the amount of debt being issued for both the sewer and for TID number 7. So as a result, the final resolution is what we're looking for ultimate approval on, the $6,250,000. So here are the bids that were received. Wasn't really planning on going through all of them, but you can see here, Mesero out of Chicago, Loop Capital out of Chicago, Baird Milwaukee, TD Securities out of New York, Fifth Third out of Cincinnati, Hilltop Securities out of Dallas, BOK Financial Milwaukee, KeyBank Cleveland, StoneX out of Atlanta, Piper Minneapolis, Northland Minneapolis, all bid. So you got kind of almost coast to coast and all over the South and Midwest, including a couple out of Wisconsin that bid on this issue. So really great news. Here is on table number 2, the document. You'll see that we have the actual, what was authorized on the left-hand side, and then the actual on the right-hand side. And here's where we talked about that big premium coming in the middle of the page, the $384,300 premium that we're really primarily using to downsize the issue. So again, we have the new structure identified and broken out between the two purposes, but again, we use the premium to downsize both elements of this financing. The allocation is identified on the next page. You'll see that we have a breakout here of TID 7 and the sewer project for Oconomowoc Parkway. And you can see where we have capitalized interest here for 24 and 25. Again, we don't expect revenue in that new area of TID number 7 to really be generated until 2026. And at that point, we'll have enough money to start making payments. So that's why we capitalize those payments, so you don't have to tap into any funds. I'm going to highlight my favorite number here on the far right-hand side of this page at the bottom. We came in about 366,000 less than the preliminary. And think about what's happened in the last month. If you follow mortgage rates, the stock market, and what's happening with treasuries, we were constantly seeing this bump up over the last 2 months until the last 2 to 3 weeks, where we're starting to finally see some rally in treasuries. And so the net result of that was about 366,000 less than our preliminary estimates. Lori mentioned this, and I think I wanted to point this out again on table 4. None of this is going to fall on the levy. This is, again, all going to be paid for out of TID 7 or out of the sewer utility. And that's really what we're depicting here on table number 4, that none of it hits the general fund and the levy. And then the last chart I wanted to just talk about briefly, because I know it's always a topic in every community we're working with, and that is borrowing capacity. How much debt do you have outstanding versus what's allowed? So where you are today, if you look at 2023, is you're at 21% of your borrowing capacity. So borrowing capacity just takes 5% of the total value of the community, and that's how much you can borrow. Now, it's easy to borrow money, it's hard to pay it back. So that's where the pain is. But you're only at 21% before this issue. This issue takes you to 24% of your borrowing capacity, meaning you have over 3/4 of your borrowing capacity left. So you have a lot of flexibility in the future to take on additional projects if you choose in the future. So I already talked about the rating report. The last chart really kind of shows you what's happened over the last year in municipal bonds, and you can see that climb we were seeing when we were here setting the sale, and then what's really transpired over the last couple of weeks is a little bit of a rally in treasuries that we really saw represented in the rates that were received today. So that's a quick summary. Happy to answer any questions.
Kevin?
Can we go back to that, that borrowing, I think it was 3 pages down,
The debt percentage?
the debt percentage, yeah.
Table 5.
Okay. Does this take into consideration the increase in housing that we're experiencing, both for purposes of condominiums and also homes?
Yeah, so what it's a good question, and one of the things I kind of glossed over. So if you look at this projected equalized value TID in, that we are showing representing that you'll continue to grow over the life of this chart. So in 2023, your full value was $3.7 billion. 23 is $3.9 billion, and we continue to see and project growth. Now, we're not projecting what you've actually done, and it doesn't really, I don't know if it says it in the bottom of this chart. Yeah, it does. So what we're really projecting is we took your you took your 5-year average, and we really discounted that by about 50%. So we're not, everybody in the state has seen growth over the last, kind of exceptional growth over the last couple of years. Statewide, the growth was 13% last year. I don't see that continuing for, at that pace. But so just to be a little more conservative, we dropped that by half, and we projected that out going forward. So yes, to answer your question, it does take into account growth.
So can I say that if these numbers, if our actual values become stagnant, that these numbers would have to be reassessed?
Yeah. Yeah, even if they
And-
became stagnant, you're at 24%, you just wouldn't see this drop off. You'll see a little drop off because you are paying down principal each year, but you're not going to see a drop off due to growth. So, yeah, we could reallocate, or, we could take these numbers and modify them to represent slower growth if you would like.
Is there any number at which the city would find itself in trouble, in a sense? For instance, I think it was in 88, 89, when the housing market crashed for the first time in a huge way, or at least in New York where I was. You could buy a house on a Monday for $600,000, and on Friday it was worth $250,000.
Yeah, we
So-
saw some of that in 2009, 10, 11, the last time we saw a correction in the housing market that was pretty substantial. Less so in Wisconsin versus maybe East and West Coast, for sure. But, we did see a stagnation of valuations. We actually saw some values drop in communities as well. So, you're nowhere near the threshold of debt that would give me any concern. What it would likely do if we ran into a situation like that would maybe have you think about future projects and do you delay those? I think that's the direction you would probably look at that point.
And that was my question.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Phil? Well, thank you very much for the representation, and at this point, I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Rozak, second.
Any further discussions or comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Maroney,
Aye.
Alderman Rozak,
Aye.
Alderman Altman-Cloth,
Aye.
Alderman Ellis,
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg,
Aye.
Alderman Mulder,
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Great, thank you, and happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
And Phil, I'm going to have a document for you in just one moment. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, now back to, thank you for coming in. Happy holidays. Let's move back into our we're going to move back to our public hearing, item 4A. City of Oconomowoc Comprehensive Land Use Plan 2050 Amendment. The purpose of it is to hear public comment for an amendment to Chapter 13, Housing, and Chapter 10, Implementation in the City of Oconomowoc Comprehensive Plan for 2050. The city is considering changes to the housing mix and housing goals. One of the specific policies to be reviewed is a desired housing mix of 60% owner-occupied and 40% renter-occupied, found on page 47 of the comprehensive plan. So council, we're going to have an open discussion, or a presentation first for Mr. Gallo, and any comments from the public, and this item will then be a discussion item later in the council meeting. Mr. Gallo.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We're having a public hearing right now to amend the comprehensive plan. We have a document that's an ordinance, and in order to amend the ordinance, we have to hold a public hearing. We thought we'd hold the public hearing, get reaction from the public. You could hear my presentation, hear the Plan Commission recommendation, have this on for discussion tonight, and then in 2 weeks, bring it back for action items. So housing in the community comes in all different shapes and sizes. We have Prairie Creek Ridge single-family homes. We have duplexes that we approved in the downtown recently. We've got the Glen of Oconomowoc, 4 families. We have Vespera at Porticello. We have, 2s and 3s out there. We have Lachlan Apartments, townhomes, and even Stack Apartments. So we have all different sorts of apartments and housing units in the city. In the comprehensive plan, we have a housing cycle that talks about you should have a good balance of mix of housing types within your city, because you have all different sorts of people, you have different age groups, you have different demographics, you have income levels. You start out with entry-level homes, This includes apartments and townhomes. You move into professionals that move into townhomes or small-scale single-family, and then you break into the families, which continue with apartments, but also duplexes and single-family homes. And then the kids move out, you downsize, you become retired, you live in a fourplex, a townhome, a condo, and then you age in place with either apartments, group living, that type of thing, and it continues on. So housing, all types are needed, but the question that I've been asked lately is, are there too many apartments? As you drive down maybe 67 or you start to see a lot of different apartments. We're going to talk about what we've recently approved and kind of what's in the pipeline, and then what the ratios are in the comprehensive plan, and talk about that a little bit. So recently, I kind of made a list of the recent projects we've approved. We'll start out with apartments, I guess, because it's on this side. Hackney House, 302, Lockland, 176, and then there was a Lockland 2 that we just approved in October, 46 more units. Weston Meadows, that was a few years ago, but they're not built, so I thought that's kind of an important thing because they're not there. Tower Ridge, Norden Range, 270, and then we have a couple in red here that are not approved, but you've seen them. Wingspan gave a presentation, they're around 180. And then the Olympia mixed-use building, it's not approved, 116 apartments. So single family, we've had a lot of those as well. Morgan Station is under construction, Weston Meadows 2, Arrowwood, you have their developers agreement on the agenda for their next phase. We have Prairie Creek is expanding up there, 232 units, Pine Ridge Estates, et cetera. So it's been about a 50-50 split regarding that right now. We have a comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2019, and it talks about the policy in there, and it talks about a 60-40 split right here, a mix of 60-40, and they changed it at that time to go, instead of single family to multifamily, they went to owner-occupied versus renter-occupied, and it does state this should be reviewed and updated on at least a 5-year basis. Okay, so let's look at a little timeline here. In 2010, we established the policy of 60-40 single family versus multifamily units. In 19, 10 years later we adopted a new comprehensive plan. We changed that policy to keep the 60-40, but we changed it to owner-occupied to renter-occupied. We figured even though some of these condo buildings are multifamily, you have a bunch of families living in the same building, they are owner-occupied. They have their own tax key number, they pay their own taxes, they're not as, they stay here in the community. And then 5 years from now, it's going to be 2024, and the policy said to look at it on a 5-year basis. We're actually ahead of the curve, so that's good. We're 2023 right now, but it's right around the corner. So this isn't the first time we looked at housing. As the city planner, we've done studies. We report back to the council. Some of you may have not have been here, but we provide studies all the time. 14, we did one. 17, we did an update. 2022, we did a major overhaul. And every year we do a housing affordability report. It's required by state. We're not talking about affordability at this time. We're talking about just the percentage of units. So one of the, in the comprehensive plan, one of the objectives talks about we should inventory existing city housing stock and track the types of housing. Well, guess what? We track the housing. Every development that comes in, we have, it's kind of hard to see on here, we have a year, what the development is, and if it's owner-occupied, renter-occupied, and total number of units. Here's a little bit of you can see the recent ones. So we have Norden Range, Old Highlander. So where are we at today? Today, we are at, if you want to call it 7129 for rounding purposes. So that's based on October. So 7129, but we have the policy of 60-40. So that's where we are today. I want you to keep that in mind. We have a secret pipeline that the public's not aware of what's in that pipeline. We have 478 renter occupied in that pipeline and 10 owner occupied. We have no single family subdivisions being proposed at all right now. Everything is coming in as either apartments, and we have one building that's a condo building right here that's got 10 units. But this is some of that pipeline. The mixed-use building, 116 units. These are all public. This went before the Architectural Commission in a public meeting, 116 units. We have wingspan, not really determined. I'm thinking around 180. And then we have the Lachlan 2. We just approved those, 46 units. So we have this pipeline. Again, I'll show you 478 units and then 10 owner-occupied units. So if I update the ratio of all that we have, then that changes. It was like 71-29, it becomes 67-32, okay? There's a lot of numbers, but I have a chart later that kind of shows you all this. So again, we're at 60-40 per our plan. Then you say, well, what do other communities have? I have some research from a sewer pack report from 2010. I know it's a little outdated, but this is what not what they actually have, but this is what their policies are. New Berlin is 80%, 20. And again, we're at 60-40, but they do single family versus, in New Berlin's case, everything else. Wow. Okay, and Waukesha's 65-35, and Lake Geneva, East Troy, they do it a little different. They have the 60% single family, but then they break it down into duplex and then multifamily, but not the owner occupied versus renter occupied. So we have a zoning map, and I thought this was a really good tool for you to see what happens. I circled Hackney House, that's 300 units. And we would need about 6 areas the size of Hackney House to create, to get us to that 60-40 split. And this is what the zoning map would look like, you know, and I'm not saying that's where multifamily is gonna go. I don't wanna start any rumors. I just wanted to kind of show you what it could potentially look like to get there. So I think by looking at this, it tells you we may have an abundance of that 60-40 is maybe a little skewed number. So in order to get there, we'd have to add 1,848 additional rental units without any new occupied homes, without any single-family homes. We'd have to just add just apartments, 1,800 to get there. So I did that for 65-35, and that's 920. And this is what I initially recommended, was 920 additional rental units, knowing that we have 400 plus in the pipeline. This would leave some buffer for additional apartments to come in. If you wanted to do a 2/3 versus 1/3 67-33 ratio, that's the 580. 580 additional rental units, if you wanted to change the policy to that, and then 68-32. This is what the Plan Commission recommended. They said 68-32 seems to be a good fit. It's a 416 additional rental units to get to that without any new owner-occupied homes. And then finally, I just wanted to throw out what 70-30 looked like. We need 104 additional rental units to get to that.
This, Jason, I don't mean to interrupt you, but with everything you've shown, this is a little confusing. Right now, you would need to get to this number, 104 additional rental units with just what we've approved, not what's been proposed with like Wingspan or Vanguard.
Correct.
Okay, so Wingspan and Vanguard are not in this.
Right. I show that in a little bit.
Okay, all right.
So I know it's a lot of numbers, so I put it in this chart, and I'm just gonna do right to the next slide. I'm gonna cross off the 60-40. We feel that's not an appropriate number. The 70-30 is not, because Alderman Rozek, at the bottom, it says we have 468 units in the pipeline with even others yet talking with the city. So I don't think 104, because there's no way we could accommodate, we couldn't even accommodate the Vanguard mixed-use building if we went to 70-30. So the 400, so it really, if we're gonna change the ratio, which we're talking about tonight in the comprehensive plan, from 60-40, it's what's the right ratio? Is it 65-35? If it's 67-33, it could be something else. Maybe you say we don't even need a ratio and you remove that completely. But the planning staff recommended the 65-35. The Plan Commission recommended 68-32. This would give us, we have 468 units that are not counted that we would bring that into that number. Did I answer your question?
I think so.
Well, and we can discuss it more and come back to these slides during the discussion section.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
So why is the planner up here talking about bringing in more apartments? Well, we got into it quite a bit at the Plan Commission. We talked about the cost. Buying a home is more expensive than renting. The average monthly purchase is $3,322 versus $2,184 is the average lease. We're in a crisis right now across the state, the country, even the county. Housing availability. There's been a slowdown in unit creation. Baby boomers and Generation X are looking to downsize to apartments. Millennials and Generation Z, that's not me, do not want single-family homes, and even family structures changing. There's less children, there's single parents. So as a planner, I have to recommend a balance of single-family homes and apartments and provide enough housing for all types of people. You know, and this wasn't coming from me. I did a lot of research on this. These were headlines, you know, October 24th, that's where I got my facts from. Buying a home is 50% more expensive than renting. Here's something about blame the boomers. That's from, you know, September 13th of this year, and affordable housing in Waukesha County, difficult goal. So these were just some of the headlines that I just recently saw. So we did talk to the school district, and we said, hey, we're looking at housing and ratios, and what are your thoughts? So we met with school officials back on September 11th, out of all days. We met with Mayor and Administrator Fry and myself, and apartments do not have the same impact as single family. They said, and I have a slide that shows how many kids come into each of the apartment units. What they prefer, the school district, is steady pace of development. You know, they graduate like 400 students every year or maybe more, and they need to replenish that into the school system. So they prefer steady growth. And then they are continually monitoring their population. So I thought this was interesting. If you're wondering how many school kids are in apartments, Hackney House, this was per an email on August 25th, 302 units, 14 students. Preserve at Prairie Creek, 352 units, 17. Lockland, 177 units, 6 students. 42 units at Gateway, 2 students. Tower Ridge, 2 students. So it's very low impact. They're not worried at all about apartments and how that impacts. Their big thing is single-family homes. So again, the Plan Commission recommendation was 68-32, and they have added the language that the ratio should not go below 68% unless the city feels the development is worthy, and that's kind of my language in the actual ordinance. The Plan Commission and Common Council, after due consideration, may, but are not obligated to exceed the housing ratio. I'm not real comfortable with that language. That's something the Plan Commission recommended to you.
What does it mean?
I don't know. It says if you think a development is really cool, you should allow it in and exceed the ratio.
Let's hold off to the discussion side, please.
I didn't think that was, after I thought about it afterwards.
We're still in public hearing.
So I think, you know, that's something that we can talk about, but So we'll never have an exact count of 6832. So we did put in there, you know, there should be a ceiling on one of them saying, don't go ever below 68 or 65 or whatever number you pick. And then a rezoning would not be granted. So we have this comprehensive plan and someone comes in and says, I want to change this urban reserve area out here on Valley Road to multifamily. They would have to amend the comprehensive plan, and we could then say, you know what, your ratios aren't in there, so we can't approve it. So you'd be using this number as a tool. But properties that do have zoning in place or are designated on the comprehensive plan would be considered vested, and they would have to be granted even if they would exceed that ratio. There's a few examples of vacant land that's zoned multifamily in the community. Not a lot, but a few pieces. Up in Weston Meadows, there's some in Pabst Farms, off of Pabst Road, and there's one in the middle of the city, off South Street, so there's a few. That's the public hearing portion. We'll open it up for the public.
Great. Do we have any comments from the audience, from the public for this public hearing? Seeing no one here for the public comment, I'd like to close the public hearing for the Comprehensive Land Use Plan 2050 Amendment, and we'll move on to our next item, open up discussion for council later in the meeting. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve minutes of November 7th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
On to comments or suggestions from citizens. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to come and share any comments with the council? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move on to our next item. I'd like to entertain a motion for consent agenda items 8A and B.
So moved, Rozak.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. On to committee reports. Start off with Public Services. Consider act on Resolution 23-R3161, awarding the Oconomowoc Parkway Sanitary Sewer Relay Construction Management Service Contract.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes. As we discussed in the committee, this is the construction management portion of the work to improve the sanitary sewer along Oconomowoc Parkway. It consisted of proposals being sent out to local firms and to firms, about 19 of them that we sent out and showed interest. We received 9 back, and city staff reviewed these with the context of the technical review of them inside of the tasks that we had presented to each of the firms. We utilized the qualification-based selection process through this, which evaluated each of these firms for their technical review. Did have a component inside of it that they had to meet an 80% or 80-point system to be qualified for the next portion of it, which was the cost component. So we had 4 of the firms that we felt were worthy for this project as they were being reviewed against a very technical component of the field and the work that we were presenting. Ruker, Milkey, R.A. Smith, Grafe, and Baxter Woodman were the 4 firms that we considered and opened up their cost. They're presented in the tables below and the values there. The points were awarded based off of each of their costs, which was a standard component, and they were awarded the higher points for the lower cost. All that considered, through this process, Ruker Milkey was being recommended as the highest ranked firm with the most points. It does have the second lowest cost included. So the recommendation at this point is to recommend Ruker Milkey with the cost of $154,000 plus the 10% contingency, all coming together for this and looking for a motion for this resolution.
Questions or comments for Mr. Herzog? Alderman Ellis.
It's more of a statement than it is a question. In the past, there's been some concern with the process associated with us finding our lowest bidder, if you want to call it that. They come in really, really, really low, but then when you really trace the paper, you come to find out that they were the most expensive in a sense. My concern is and will be, Rupert Milkie has come in with 154,000. I'm almost certain, even though we do have a contingency of 10%, I think it is, which equates to 169,000. I can assure you that within a reasonable amount of time, they're going to come in because they're going to exceed the 10%. And then they're going to come in another time, and then they're going to come in another time. Before you know it, we got another problem.
That's still lower than the next highest bid, so.
Regardless of that, my concern, okay, everybody else probably doesn't have the same concern that I do. I think that we need to revisit that and try and figure how we can make it a little more palatable in a sense, so that these companies cannot come in, give us a dollar bid, and then we end up paying them 1.2 million.
Alderman
example.
Altman Cloth.
So going on what Alderman Ellis's concerns are, and I know have you been here a year yet? It has been a year? Okay. In the year time that you've been here, how many times have we had a project go over the 10% where they had to come and ask for more? And in those times that has happened, how much over the 10% did you have to come back and ask us for?
So it's a small sample size for myself, but even for this style, from what I understand, this has not been implemented more than 3-4 years. So it's a small sample size, and I can recall 3 projects.
Okay. And how much, are we talking, the way that Alderman Ellis is painting it is that, Wilker Milkie it's 154,000 with the 10%, that they're gonna end up coming back to us, and it's, what did you say, 2.2 million?
No, I was being facetious. Come on
Well,
now.
I know, but,
Come on
people,
now, come on,
the
come
people
on.
watching may take that serious, and I
being
want to be
facetious.
mindful of that, so.
You know exactly what I'm talking
I know what you mean.
Okay.
But the average person potentially watching may not know that, so.
Yeah,
Can
and
you
this is
give
not
me
the
a couple
lowest bid,
examples
just to be clear.
of how much more things have gone over?
It varies. 20, 40.
And I think it's pretty fair to say, and I don't want to speak for the rest of the council, but I can speak for myself, that if they come back, so the 10% takes it to what, the
169?
Yeah, the 169. If you come back to us, 3-4 months from now and you want 450,000 because they misbid it, I think there's a pretty good chance we're going to say no.
Yeah, and I think the structure is set up to provide more clarity so that you can prevent some of the misconceptions that might be out there. Again, this style of work, this is construction management, this is all dependent upon what the construction is doing. If there are components inside the work itself that lead to more times, basically the scope of the project is growing, this is dependent upon that. It could go less, it could go more. Depends how this work goes. We do our best in trying to estimate the work, design it, put it together. That's very critical because we understand costs are all a portion of that. So construction management inspection is completely dependent upon the construction. Design services are different. We have more control over the scope of them. This style of work is a portion of the construction. So I'm going to speak towards the construction and this. They are designed to work within the parameters that we are presenting right here. If they don't, we do come back and try to explain whatever may have happened. And I think you most recently can remember the lift station project, I think is the last one that was revisited, and there were justifiable components of that project that led to construction increases. Those are all very clear pieces of it. I don't believe there are any things that are trying to be hid there, but that's part of the construction of it. And sometimes you intentionally grow a scope because of, opportunity. If there's a piece of work that needs to be incorporated, you take the opportunity to do it while the contractor's there, or maybe the road is shut down and you can take advantage of some of those things. So you intentionally may grow the scope of a project. And this work right here, we've evaluated this with cost aside and given you a recommendation and included cost. So Rooker Milky was at the top of both of those lists, with that being a part of it. I do believe we have taken advantage of the system. As you remember, this project included a hybrid design portion that the city did the design. Lucas, our assistant Heath, and myself all contributed for the design of this, which was a fraction of the cost. And we are in well positioned for that design of that, so that saved that money. And I'll give you this little piece. Putting it together like this, you save the money in the design costs, and now you also allow a contractor, or a firm in this case, to also bid on the construction management, which saved $30,000 in this case. That may not have been presented in a different scenario.
Alderman Mulder. Okay. No, thank you for all the clarification. I think it's wonderful. Alderman Rozak.
Just very brief. Look, I think we put the controls in place a while back to prevent past issues. The controls are that the designer and the construction manager can't be the same person. We have a firm cost bid with just a 10% contingency, and they have to come back. Those are the only controls that make sense. After that, I think you let people bid as needed, and as we get the bids and we pick the best person for the job, and then we hold that person or that group accountable later on if they've gone beyond. And I think that's the best we can do. That's what the controls are there for. So I'll make a motion to approve as recommended.
Second.
Any further discussions, comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Maroney?
Aye.
Alderman Rozak?
Aye.
Alderman Altman-Cloth?
Aye.
Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder? Alderman Shell Pepper?
Aye.
On to 3 Plan Commission items. We're going to start with consider act on the extraterritorial certified survey map to combine lands located at North 65, West 35115, Road J in the town of Oconomowoc. Mr. Gallo.
Thank you. I'll just give a real brief presentation on this. We have a CSN that's located in the town of Oconomowoc. It's on Okauchee Lake. It's outlined in yellow here on Road J. It is approximately 0.86 miles. It's less than the 3-mile jurisdictional area that the city has to review. You can see over here is Brown Street with St. Matthew's Church. So I did a distance here, and it's less than 1 mile. So it does fall within our review authority area. All they're doing is they're basically, they purchased some additional land from a neighbor, and they're combining those into one. This is a requirement of the county to prepare a CSM to combine these areas. Plan Commission did review this. They recommended approval. The one thing that we always look at is the signature block to make sure that the correct people are noted and the spelling's correct, and I just put that down as yes. Chairman and secretary and mayor and clerk are all properly identified. The Plan Commission recommended approval of the certified survey map in the town of Oconomowoc.
Questions or comments for Mr. Gallo?
The
Like to entertain a
applicant
motion?
is here.
And the applicant is here too. He's been sitting patiently. Any, like to entertain a motion, please?
So moved. Second, Rozak.
Further comments, discussion? Called roll, please.
Alderman Maroney?
Aye.
Alderman Rozak?
Aye.
Alderman Altman-Cloth?
Aye.
Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper?
Aye.
Thank you for coming in. Our next item is consider act on the Olympia Clinical Condominium plot, creating units 1 and 2 within the existing building located at 1287 Olympia Fields Drive. Mr. Gallo.
We have a building, one of the early ones here in Olympia Fields Development. It's on Olympia Fields Drive. They would like to take this medical building and condominiumize it, if that's a correct term. So it's for ownership, so they can sell the individual units to the business owners, the medical doctors. So the site is located, again, in Olympia Fields, right on Olympia Fields Drive, and it's got Summit Avenue in the background. They presented the plat, Olympia Clinical Condominium, they call it, and it creates units 1 and units 2, and this is for the sale of the units they have, I guess, doctors' medical uses on both sides. And Plan Commission did review this. They recommended approval. Vanguard said there was no real issues at Plan Commission. They actually had conflicts tonight, so they're not available to be here, but I told them I would just present the item and try to answer questions on their behalf.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Any further questions, comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman-Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis. Excuse me. Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Now we're moving on to the discussion of ordinance 23-01055 to amend the City of Oconomowoc Comprehensive Plan 2050, the housing ratios. So I think there's a lot of work that Jason has done, a lot of things that we've looked at over the last several months. And our thought process was to get you the information tonight, give you plenty of time. We can bring this forward in January, we can bring it forward in December. But as you can see, the recommendations forward and open it up for discussion and questions. Alderman Rozak, did you have the question from last time?
Oh, yeah, no, I think
You-
he answered it, kind of.
Okay, okay, good. Alderman Shell Pepper.
So my question is like, it seems that we are making our ratio just based on what we're getting in through the free market as to what it's creating. And we're making it based on what we think is gonna happen anyways, right? We're not setting a desired amount and then, you know, changing what we're gonna allow to be built in the community as a result of that ratio.
I know you stepped out for a minute. I did make the case of, I think, why we need to change the 60-40. I showed the Hackney House here is, we need about 6 of these areas right here that's circled. So I changed the plan to look like this. And, you know, I don't think that's a good balance of multifamily to single family. So it's just making the case of I know the council always asks, well, why are you doing this, you know? So I'm trying to visually show you what it would look like. Do we have too many apartments? And that's just, this is really a policy decision. And this is not where I'm saying apartments are gonna be located. I'm just saying these are vacant areas where they could potentially be located. I don't think it makes good sense to have apartments. This is all the land we have in the city that's colored, and most of it is taken, so these would be one of the few areas that we could do it to get to that 60-40. So I don't think the 60-40 is a good accurate number. We would need 1,848 additional apartments without one new single-family home just to get us to the 60-40. So I'm thinking, you know, we should really change it. And what is the magic number? Is it 65-35? Is it 67-33? 2/3 versus 1/3? We did look at, maybe you didn't see this one, other communities. And we looked at a variety of ratios and I didn't cherry pick. This is every community that's sewer PAC listed who has a policy. Doesn't mean we have to have a policy. Actually, when I called sewer PAC, they said, we don't recommend a policy.
You're talking about a ratio right now.
A ratio.
Well, that's what so I guess that's what I'm getting is I don't quite understand why we are creating a ratio when it seems to me the ratio that you're trying to pinpoint not the 60/40, but, you know, some of the other options are based on what you're already seeing in the pipeline and what you think we're gonna have. Like, what's realistically attainable that's gonna be created.
Why have
and
a
I can-
ratio? Because we have a comprehensive plan that when people come in and say, I want to change urban reserve or commercial or something else, it's not high-density residential, it could be single-family. To that, you would like to have something to say, it doesn't really fit the city. And you have communities such as Newborough and McGuanago, Waterford, they decided they'll have a policy in place to maintain a balance. What kind of balance do you want for single family versus duplex, multifamily, that type of thing? We have a 60/40, 60% owner occupied, 40% rental. That's our policy that some of you that were here for the comprehensive plan said that's what we agree with.
So have we ever changed though, or turned down a development, or have we turned someone away based, to meet that ratio? Have we taken proactive measures to prevent developments from happening, or?
No, because no one comes in and says, I want to change multifamily to single family. It's always and we have an abundance. We have 1,800 more units to go to even get to that. So I can't turn people away. I can't turn down multifamily. We're not there yet.
So kind of a big picture look, what we want to do is have council look at what do you want Oconomowoc to look like. And it's driven by the market right now because there's so many apartments being built, not just in Oconomowoc, look in Brookfield, look in Elm Grove. It's growing like crazy because it's profitable. And so sometimes you overbuild certain things. We could overbuild another area. And so with what's happening in Oconomowoc, the question is, what do you want Oconomowoc to look like 10, 15 years down the road? And do you want to put guidelines in that would then, if something comes forward, a council or a plan commission could use those guidelines to bring something forward or not? Right now, there's so much flexibility. If you do nothing, you could add a lot more apartments if that's what you want within the city of Oconomowoc. What I've viewed over the last several years is a ton of apartments that come in because you can build them really fast and you can occupy them. And they're at about a 1.5% vacancy rate right now. That's amazing. So we've gone to Waukesha to talk to people. I've talked to several of the apartment builders, and they do a lot of research looking at where to put these, what to go. And they would love to put more apartments in Oconomowoc. The question is, what do you want? It's not what Jason wants, it's not what Bob Magnus wants. We're just trying to give some guidelines because it's kind of come from about 6 months ago. Jason and I started talking about this at length. And after I visited a lot of other communities, you got to look at what do we want that small town charm? Apartments, the apartments we have are very high-end apartments, so it's not about the people. But I've always had the philosophy that if you have skin in the game, you tend to be more engaged in the community. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but one thing I have learned, looking at these ratios for pretty intensely with Jason and with several of the developers, there's no perfect number, there's no perfect ratio. You're still kind of guessing. But based on our comprehensive plan, the recommendation is to look at them, and with the ones that, there are other ones that want to come in that aren't even into the queue, as Jason has already alluded to, that may or may not come. They're just talking to the city. I think we need to be cognizant of what you guys want our community to look like. So there's no hidden agenda there other than a personal bias that too many apartments, I feel, may not be good for the community 10, 15 years down the road. That's Bob Magnus's crystal ball, and that's all it is because, frankly, nobody knows. But when you look at these different growths that happen, when things happen really, really fast, we've just got to be cognizant of it and see if you want to make a change. Alderman Ellis.
Thank you for that, I appreciate it. I thought about this, especially after the last planning meeting, and this is my own thoughts, and I just need your feedback to help me understand further. By changing the percentage, and the definition, in a sense, of what we consider single-family and then what we consider apartments, whether they're condos or they're just regular apartments. We're opening ourselves up to actually more apartments. But I thought about something just a few minutes ago, and I think we can all agree that here, we want to keep taxes as low as we possibly can. And you had mentioned something, that apartments have a very low impact on the schools. As a matter of fact, can you bring that slide back up again? Is that possible?
I might be going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Going the wrong way.
Sorry, let me keep going here.
Okay, here it is right here. So you got 14 in Hackney House, 17, 6, 2, and 2. That concerns me, and I'll explain to you why that is. One of the unknown variables that we have no control over as far as the tax bill is concerned is what the school is going to request and ask for. So we can keep our budget really, really, really low, but the school may come up and say, no, we need this much. Thus, at the end of the day, our tax rate increases because of the fact that the school needs more money. In the case that we have more apartments and we don't have single-family homes, we're not going to have enough students. However, on the other end of that, salaries still have to go up, insurance still has to go up, the school is going to have some issues. That's going to fall on the taxpayer. That's going to fall on the individual who's got the single-family home or the condo. So we need to take that into consideration when we're looking at this. That if 10 or 15 years down the road, we want it to be that anybody can live here and we're not paying X amount for taxes each and every year and making it so that nobody can live here. We need to have more single-family homes because they're going to bring the kids in according to your, okay? Which thus means we can keep the taxes at least not as high as they would be if we had more apartments. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's certainly one way to look at it. To keep maintain the level in the school system, you need single-family homes. But we do have single-family subdivisions as well that are growing, that are bringing in additional children as well.
But
So
my point here is, according to what you've already stated, we've got 1,800 more, or potential of how many more apartments. I think that's going to kind of potentially hurt Oconomowoc instead of help Oconomowoc. Because at least I'm getting emails on, I can't live here anymore.
Well, the schools, they do have a lot of students in them right now. They're not asking to build any new schools, but they're looking at options to, down the road, if we continue our growth, they might have to redistrict or do some other things to take on all these students.
However, if we continue our growth in apartments, we won't have to.
Right.
The challenge is the market's just funky right now for a lot of different reasons. Alderman Mulder.
I think it's interesting that we're the only ones that do the owner occupied versus, and what I hear the most from people, and it's just really mostly snarky people on Facebook maybe more than anything else, but I don't think our constituents think that condo and apartment are anything different. They see them as one group of things. They want single-family homes or other. And for us to only say what our rental is going to be, I think misses the larger point of what how the community looks at it. That we're adding a lot of condos, both downtown and pockets within each of these new developments have multifamily. And so I think if we looked at that, we would already be probably I don't know if we'd be at 60%, but it would be much closer to 60%. I mean, single families it might only be 60%
Right, we had that discussion a long time during the adoption of the comp plan when we amended it, and we thought that for someone buying $1 million condominium, they shouldn't be treated like an apartment unit. They're not transient people.
But treated how? I guess there feels like there's so much judgment associated with that. Like, we're not treating them any way different. We're just counting them one way or the other, and we're counting them the way that they're being viewed, which is not a single-family home. So
Well, the average turnover in apartments about 3 years. That's what's been told to me in our community. So a turnover of an apartment in 3 years means they're here for a period of time. So to me, it's more about the behavior of community. And that's the skin in the game part that I look at. It's not a judgment on how much money you have, whether you're in low income or a high income apartment, it doesn't matter. But it's more about how they get engaged in the community. And we talk about the small town charm of a city. The small town charm is the people and the engagement. It's not just the lake or the parks or any of that stuff. It's the people engaging. And that's kind of how I would view the apartment component, but they're not wrong in saying that we're judging, but that's my perspective.
It's the people, I mean, engagement, you can say, is people coming down to the beer garden or down to the Christmas market, and that's going to be full of the young people that are in the apartment buildings. They're going to be the people that are down there Friday night and Saturday night, engaging with the community and all the bars we have downtown and the restaurants. And I mean, the development we have, and the reason we're getting some of the chain restaurants is because the number of people here are increasing rapidly, and so that's what's filling those. Apartments are really efficient from a tax revenue generating standpoint, right? I mean, that's a very efficient use of that land on an acre. You can get a lot more tax revenue out of an acre of apartments than 3 houses small houses on a small acre lot. So I don't really know how I feel in this. It feels very pejorative to say that renters are somehow less than condo owners are less than single family. Like I just don't feel like that.
Well, and I think
it feels like a really old way to look at the world based on where people are, the way the world is becoming. There's a reason that apartments are getting rented like crazy. And I'm not saying I want to fill the city with apartments, but that's what people want, right? That's actually all they can afford.
Well, and it's engagement and utilizing the resources in a community is one thing. Engagement in giving back to a community, giving to your churches, to the nonprofits. Those are the things that I view a little bit more, but I can definitely agree with you. It is an old person's philosophy, and I am showing my age in feeling that way. But I could be completely wrong too, because the population could be doing things very, very different. The more I've dug into this, the more confusing it can be at times. So Alderman Rozak.
A lot of good points, a lot of good discussion. I was here during the discussion when we changed from basically single family to multifamily to owner occupied to renter, because it was what Jason's point, which was one of the points I made back then, is the person that's buying a $1.5 million condo is in a slightly, even though they're in a building that looks like an apartment building, is in a little different a position than someone who's renting for a couple of years because they're here on a contract job. I don't think it's a lesser or more kind of scenario. I think it is involvement in the community. And it's, do we want another 1,800 apartments? I can tell you for my district, it's very different than District 1, 2, and probably to some degree 4, because where everybody wants to build the apartments is right in my neighborhood. So even Jason's little, faux, little squares where he didn't put it anywhere in a lot of those districts.
You got one of them.
I mean, it's not that whether that's good or bad, but when you do create large apartment buildings and apartment complexes, what you see is increased traffic and all those things that more seasoned areas of the city don't see. I will tell you, the folks out in my district who are single-family residents don't want to see another Hackney house, and they certainly don't want to see 8 more Hackney houses, or whatever that number is. That's a lot of apartments. What's surprising is certain developments are actually well taken, like Laughlin, because it's tucked away, it looks nice, it's right on the main thoroughfare. It's not jammed in Valley Road where they have the road is terrible and it can't handle all that traffic. So if it's done right, and if it's done in the appropriate spot, it can be okay. I think the same thing with Norton Range. No one's complaining about Norton Range, because it's on a large roundabout with a thoroughfare connecting to 67 right to 94. It has proper access to handle the traffic. Other ones like Hackney just do not. It's the wrong spot for it. We should never, ever have voted for that project. So I think that's what people up by me are saying. So I like what the Planning Commission did. I don't understand that language that I'd asked about before, but I think the 68-32 is the right number. I voted for 70-30 years ago, and that was with the owner occupied versus, you know, the renter. And it's just our chance to, as policymakers, say, what do we want our community to look like in 10 to 15, 20 years? That's our job to control. Otherwise, if we don't control it, and we keep getting zoning changes to folks that want to build another 8 Hackney houses, the entire area out in Pabst Farms will simply just all be apartments. That's what they want to build. That's what Wingspan said too. We're going to build the apartments first. So that's how they make money. And they do, the developers, just so we're clear, they're not doing this just because, you know, people need help because they can't afford homes, right? They're doing this because they make a ton of money very fast, and then they sell those units oftentimes later on to other investment folks. So this isn't altruistic for them, like, well, we really need to create affordable housing for people because no one can afford to buy a home. That's not what's going on there. They're making an absolute fortune on these places.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying there, but at the end of the day, you know, where people are trying to build condos isn't out in your district, but in my district. I mean, you want to keep building downtown, and the concerns I hear isn't about apartments versus, you know, condos, but multifamily versus single family. And that's where I think this misses the mark for at least, you know, the downtown districts, because it's not dealing with, you know, the issues that exist in terms of the multifamily versus the single family. And I'll just say, I mean, I point to the downtown overlay district and what we said, you know, here's what we envision and how we want to have things. And, you know, at the drop of a hat, we're very quick to throw those things out and say that, you know, they can be changed, is all I'm saying. So they're not going to necessarily keep it in stone. So I guess from my point of view, I don't think I like the definition. I'll be honest, the owner versus the renter definition. So at least if I'm trying to, you know, accurately represent the concerns of constituents that I have.
Jason?
Alderman, 2 follow-up points on what you just kind of commented on. First, you're right, there's redevelopment that occurs, and staff was discussing this earlier today. We want to encourage redevelopment of parcels, especially in the downtown.
Condos.
If they go to condos, they're not part of this. They're not considered a rental unit. So those would be part of like a single-family home.
Right, that's the
So
problem.
that would be fine, because we're actually low on that for the percentage. And if they would redevelop into the apartments, there could be language that says properties that go for redevelopment, you know, can exceed the ratio or something. And that could be a standard. I know the Plan Commission was talking about giving some wiggle room to the council, but they didn't put a criteria on it. They didn't define what that was. And earlier we were talking at a staff meeting about that, and I said I'm not comfortable with it, but we brought up maybe if it was for a redevelopment project and it was an apartment downtown or wherever, you know, then that could be the criteria. So you said, what does that mean? And then it dawned on me, we did talk about that earlier.
And as you can see, there's really probably no right answer. And the question is, we just want to get this out to all of you to start talking about, to see if you want to change a comprehensive plan. You may say, hey, leave it the same way it is, or I do want to change it. And also to talk to your constituents, give you some time to do that.
I mean, if we went back to the multifamily approach, because Jason can give us the multifamily numbers too, he has in the past, like what that ratio would look like if we were talking about like a Fowler Lake Village being considered the same as apartment buildings. He can give us those numbers. It's probably 60-40 right now if we did that. So Eagles Landing, you know, $1.3 million units, Fowler Lake Village, $1.5 million units on the top floor. You toss those in. Kingsway Homes by me, those are all condos technically, even though they look like kind of mini house, houses. They're side by sides, they're duplexes. And in most places, it's just considered multifamily or duplex. You throw all of those into the mix. We also have some of those condos that I think went out by the Belinsky area, out by you guys, by Piggly Wiggly. They've got a lot of the really nice side-by-side duplexes. You throw those into multifamily as a one unit, I'll bet you we're at 60-40, if not closer to 50-50.
And so what are you saying then, that then we can't build any more condos if someone wants to
Any more
build a
condos,
condo?
apartments, or anything, unless we change this
Well,
number,
unless we give an
raise the
exception
number up.
like we've done for the downtown overlay district, and we'll say, hey, well, you can have an exception to this policy.
We can
right here.
make exceptions to just about any of our policies.
Right.
This is to give us guidelines,
Yeah.
and it's really to say, what's your vision going forward? And Alderman Mulder wanted to say something?
Well, yeah, I think the 68 is a little strong to start with. I do worry about if housing prices are high. There's a lot of units that could come online. If building does slow down out here, and we have hamstrung ourselves by not allowing any additional apartments to be built, which is really what 68 is, right? That's saying that really one more development somewhere might go in and one more small one. I mean, there's, the potential impact to net new construction down the road is real if we're not building single families. And
Keep in mind that 6832 is 416 to get there, but at the last sentence of this slide says we have 468 in the pipeline. That is not counted towards that. So as soon as you would be over already.
so we'd have to turn one of them down, or potentially.
Right. That's what I want you guys to know, that if you change the policy to 6832 and someone comes in and says, I need to rezone now, or some of these are vested because like the Wangarde mixed use
Feels like there's a lack of
is
flexibility
vested, but
there. And
I don't think Wingspan is vested right now, so you might have to turn them down because.
No, that's numbers part of your 460.
That's part of your calculation.
No, the 468 are the units that are out there. That's Wingspan and mixed use and.
But includes Vanguard, and those 106 units in Vanguard's, that was already part of the deal there. That's already baked into the cake in Olympia.
Right, so we'd have to talk about,
You could subtract 106 out of that right now.
so,
If they bring it forward.
Right.
So the hardest thing, you guys, is some of these things, there's a lot of discussion. Do they bring it forward, yes or not? No, you don't know. When we look at the larger single-family homes developments, are they going to happen in 3 to 5 years? Is it going to be 5 to 10? I mean, we're doing a fair amount of crystal ball work here, but if we can come up with a guideline, I think that's the right approach.
I could live with 67-33, 68-32. I could live with those numbers. And to Jazz's point, we already did this for Hackney. We did this for Journey 21. Both of those groups came into areas that were commercial or single family and did a land use plan change that this council voted for and a zoning change for those two places. So you can certainly do it. This is just giving us some ability, at least on planning, for us to say, look, we've already hit another 580 apartment units in the last year. We can't build anymore unless you go to council and I'm telling you it's going to be tough, or if you want to rezone an entire area from commercial to apartments, it's going to be tough. And it gives us that additional control. If we leave it at the 60-40, we have zero control of those 1,848 unless there's an actual zoning change. So that's my concern. And I think
And remember, all of these numbers have no consideration of new single-family homes that we don't know anything about. So there could be, 20, 30, 100 more single-family homes, but they take so much longer to get into the pipeline.
I don't think, I want people to consider what I was saying, that if single-family homes slow down and we're not allowing any more apartments to be built, that our net new construction is going to flatline, and we're going to be looking at this last budget was easy. We were flush with cash. We're going to come into years where we get at 1%, 1.5% net new construction, and we're cutting somewhere, for sure, because our costs go up 4% with employment on 60% of our budget.
That's right. That's what you weigh then. So
Right, but that's why I'm saying 68, 67 feels too tight for me. 65-35 gives us the flexibility
It gives you
to
little, actually,
help us balance the market.
we always have the flexibility to let it change. We can change the comprehensive plan, we can change the zoning if we want to.
So
Alderman
make it tight with the hope that we.
But if we go to the 65-35, you said you talked to some of the other communities in the sewer pack, right? So Waukesha's like 65-35, but in their 35%, they're including all the condos and stuff in there.
We're not doing, right?
And we're not. So I'd like it at one of those higher numbers, the 67 or the 68, because we're not including the condos in the rental unit side of things.
Can we ask Jason to bring that number back, what
Yeah.
that number
Yeah.
would look like if you
Sure.
included the Fowler Lake?
Why don't
Villas?
we do this? I think we've had a great discussion tonight, and this is just a starting point of it. And Jason, if we can bring some of that detailed of those back to the next time. I'm thinking, Jason, we'll just openly discuss this, maybe holding off and bringing this back in January rather than in December. Give us a little extra time, and also gives you time, guys, your own time to do your due diligence or talk to your constituents.
What's like the broader point of just like, you know, somebody who just graduated though from like high school or something like that, like being able to live in Oconomowoc, or, you know, someone who's, that's the only thing I think about, you know, with, you know, if we're only allowing condos or single-family homes, you know, our single-family homes that we've been building are, I mean,
Well,
there's no
even-
way I could afford it.
Now you're getting into a whole nother topic.
Well, that's what I mean.
The
So that's what I
housing-
just worry about, you know, and I think about like, you know, so.
Housing affordability is a whole
Yeah,
nother
but
topic.
but that's what we're talking about though, aren't we, to some extent here, when we're talking about whether we would build an apartment versus a condo? Because like the
Slightly, yeah.
apartments are probably gonna be, you know.
They do this, but I could do a whole nother presentation just
okay.
on
So
supply
that's
chain and
like-
construction costs and land values. Yeah, that's a tough topic.
Alderman
this is
Spiegelberg?
ratio.
But because we are including condos in the larger percentage, we're actually allowing a greater percentage in this community of the apartments. If you compare us to all of those other communities that don't include the condos in the larger percentage.
Right,
So
well-
we're actually being even more gracious in allowing apartments in with that percentage, with our percentage.
Multifamily.
Because it's all rentals versus, okay, so you look at New Berlin, their condos
Oh, it's
and their
true. No,
rentals
that's a
are
good
all
point, yeah.
included in the 20%. Same with Waukesha, 35%, you know.
Okay.
So I think some great discussion, and Jason, Jason has been working hard. Hats off to you. You've done a lot of wonderful work, and
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you bringing it up and bringing it
Bring us
forward.
more numbers.
Good
Jason.
discussion,
Good
everyone. Okay, on to some new business. Consider act on resolution 23-R3160, authorizing the issuance,
We
did
just did that, yeah.
Consider an act and resolution 23-R3159, approving the expansion of the Northeast Regional Park pickleball courts and amended Lake Country Pickleball Club use agreement, and authorizing a budget amendment to use park impact fees for the project.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm here tonight to present this resolution that would do three things. First, it would approve a 10-court expansion out at Northeast Park of the pickleball courts. Next would be approval of amending an agreement between the city and the Lake Country Pickleball Club. That's also in your packet. And approval of a budget amendment to use $200,000 of park impact fees for the 10-court expansion project. The balance of that project will be covered by the pickleball club. So, as you know, they built 10 courts in 2022. That has been very successful. They have been very well used, and now we have an opportunity to expand for even more use. So I do have members of the pickleball group here tonight to answer any questions you may have, and with that, I'll open to any questions you may have for me.
Alderman Maroney.
Yeah, where are we at with the two courts open, you know, as far as we were going back and forth with that?
Yeah, so there, as part of the new agreement, there would be 2 courts of the next 10 that are built that will be completely dedicated to public use. The courts also, those that are dedicated for the pickleball group to use are reserved. They reserve up to about 50% of the court time. The other 50% would be community access.
Okay, and that's fair with them?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and this was approved by the park board. One of the things that's in the agreement is to evaluate this on an annual basis to see how that works with the public. So if we are getting complaints from the public that they're not getting the court use that they would like, we can revisit that with the club and then make adjustments as needed.
I have a, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
Alderman Shellpepper.
I guess this would be the question maybe for the group, but just what's the argument as to why the city should have to put $200,000 to build in these courts at all? I mean, why, you know, you guys built the first 10 on your own. I think you built the lighting, you know, you took care of all that. I mean, why shouldn't you just build those additional 10 courts? You know, we're giving you the land and you're operating them largely for yourselves. I mean, I know there are still public opportunities there, but, I mean,
When you come to the podium, if you can just reintroduce yourself to the council.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Chris Olson, and I'm on the board, and I have other board members here today, Eric Swanson and our president, Jim Meyer. So that's a good question, Chaz. We have about 1,000 members, but we feel that only about a quarter of those members are actually city residents. But we represent only a little bit less than half of the time on those courts. And I think the other 55, 60% of the time is occupied by city residents, mostly, really do. So this is city residents' use, and this will end up being, if it's approved, $1 million complex. And I think that the municipality should share in the cost, because it is in the municipality and it is being used by the residents.
Well, I guess I would take, and I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying, but, you know, coming from, you know, like I have some connections to the tennis community, and my understanding is, you know, that they spent over $1 million on their tennis complex that they built. That was all out of pocket. And, you know, there was barely.
You mean at the high school?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And what did the city spend on
and
that?
I think it was $15,000, it's my understanding, maybe even less than that, not a dollar. Yeah. So, I mean, so that's what, it's like, you know, they privately fundraised that whole thing. They built that whole thing.
I believe the school was involved in that too. The
Right,
school
but
district.
not in terms of fundraising. I mean, that fundraising, there's $1 million plus complex that was completely out of private donations. So so that's the one piece to it. I'm just trying to understand. The other piece is, you know, you said it was a city, you know, there'd be city residents that would be using it. I mean, I think that'd be true of any facilities we built out at that park, right? So why do you think, you know, the pickleball should get the priority on the park impact fees? Because it is a limited resource regardless, right?
Right.
What's the thought there?
Well, maybe Eric could respond to that. I know there's a lot of participation in the community for pickleball. And I think that the pickleball club has spent a lot of money. There's a lot of, and we're not only asking or volunteering to pay for 80% of the facility if approved. We're also willing to pay for the maintenance of that facility. So 100% of the maintenance, you know, as we foresee it. I mean, you never know what's going to happen out there, but.
Because I think it goes up to 25 grand. What was that, what we would, and that would, you know, take care of any foreseeable maintenance?
It would. I
yearly.
mean, we're looking at over 8 to 10 years resurfacing cost in today's dollars of about $160,000. And if this year we maxed out at 20,000, I think in the future we'll max out. I don't know that for sure, but you could be looking at revenue of $250,000 over that 10-year period. And we're looking at 160 to resurface. So I just think that there's a lot of participation. Pickleball is growing. There's a lot of excitement. It's a great facility. It's good for Oconomowoc. And paying 20% of the cost, I don't think is an outrageous ask. So.
Alderman Rozak?
Hey, Chris.
On the first page, some of the, I helped you, we did some redraft here a couple weeks ago, you, me, and Eric, and then it went back, it got redrafted. On the bottom of the first page of the agreement, you guys crossed out intends to attempt raising additional funds for future installation of lighting and windscreens. Are you guys just going forward to try to raise for that right away, or are we just throwing out no lighting, or what's the plan with the lighting?
No, the plan is to bid this complete.
Okay.
That's the plan, but we're going to break out the lighting to determine if we can,
Do it
afford
right
it.
away.
We paid $475 the first go-round. We're going to build the exact same thing the second time. That's the plan.
Right.
But we anticipate the cost might be $600,000 this go-round.
Okay.
So it's going to be considerably more
I should
expensive.
have gone into making pickleball courts. I should have changed my profession. Well, that's good. And either way, we're gonna put in the infrastructure for lighting, even if you don't
Yes.
raise for lighting
Oh, yeah.
right away.
Yep.
I think the park impact fee use is a good use. It's not off the levy directly. We have to spend the money, or we essentially lose it over time if we don't spend it. There is a lot more the city has donated, though. It's not just, the 200. It's, it's the cost of the land originally, the parking too, which we paid portions towards, which, by the way, we have to make a little path between the parking and the pickleball. Just put that in your notes. Because there's like a spot where everyone's walking over the grass and kind of wrecking it. But the one question I had, and actually, it's on it's on the second page, reserve court time. There's this kind of commentary that was added about, if any other outside individual group wants to do tournaments. I get that. You, of course, probably don't want other people coming in and do tournaments without you guys kind of putting your stamp of approval. One concern I would have, though, is I would like to add just a simple sentence on the end that this would not affect or prevent the use of the courts during public time for a private lesson. So let's say I become the best pickleballer in the state next month, right? I train with you for a month solid, I become really good, and I want to do lessons. During public time, I don't think you guys should stop someone from doing a private lesson during public time. Do you agree with that?
No, yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
And I also, when you say, Alderman Rozak, public time, I look at this completely public.
Yeah.
Because
Well, but
we don't turn away any member.
Yeah, well,
You
I
know?
get it, and I've been out there during the member time, and no one's like kicking people off of
No.
courts or anything like that. But I could see if it gets really popular and really busy, that there'd be during the club times where it's like, hey, you guys, you put the sign up and, you're not allowed in. But so I just want to make it clear that during the normal public use time, if there's some private instructor that does pickleball locally and wants to teach kids, you guys aren't going to stop that.
No.
So I think we should add that language in. I could read it again. This would not prevent the use of the courts for private lessons, the use of the courts during public time for private lessons. And maybe there's a better way to wordcraft that. That's kind of on the fly. But that's the general, I think that protects people from doing little private lessons or something.
And also remember that there's a $10 drop-in fee. So anybody can play at any time with the $10 drop-in fee.
Alderman Mulder.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate we've had conversations in this. I appreciate you kind of hearing me on the always two courts being open. I think it's important that no matter what time someone can go and play. We talked a lot about noise. I pulled it's in our district, and I pulled some of the residents, and there's some concern about noise. We went out there with and it was, the crickets were louder than the pickleball that morning, so we couldn't even get a good read on it. But I don't think in the agreement we specify that there's going to be sound barriers on the fencing, do we, or am I missing that?
I believe there is in the first, where is that, Eric? Yeah, go ahead.
So on the first page, under maintenance fund, landscaping targeting court noise and wind issues. So in the concept plan that you guys have, there's,
But that's landscaping, that's not sound dampening on the fencing in itself, which is what we discussed.
Right.
But that's landscaping. Landscaping to me is the arborvitae that'll go up
Yeah,
there,
right,
not
right.
wrapping the fences.
Right,
with
and
it.
that can provide up to 10 decibel reduction, okay? And when you and I were out there and we had the decibel meter, we found that nothing registered above 55 decibels. And that, according to all measures, is an acceptable sound level. And these courts at the home that would be closest to the new courts, which are slightly closer than the old courts to the residential area, are still 525 feet from each other. So, and the regulations that have been formed so far in municipalities that are dealing with this problem is a maximum of, or minimum of 400 feet. So we're 125 feet beyond that. And I think the arborvitae are going to reduce that a little bit. And at the end of 1 year, well, I also should say that the USA Pickleball, which is the governing body, is working on sound reduction. And they actually have a sound reduction category now. They approved last week their first paddle, which is being manufactured by Owl. The sound, the noise is an issue. There's no doubt about that. But be assured that the powers that be are working on that. And I think that these courts really are, if you look around the areas, these courts really are, meet every, I mean, it'd be nice to get the acoustic fence too, but that would add about $75,000 to the project. I would rather suggest that at the year end, when we do have that in the contract, that we meet and we determine then at that point if there's a problem, which I really don't anticipate because of what we've done so far.
And in the diagram, it just shows the trees on the south side and kind of the wrapping on the south side. Is that the intent? I mean, there aren't houses to the north right now, but there will be. They'll probably be further south and west.
The south and west. Yeah, I think the intent is, as we meet and we talk about this and we gauge the success and the problems and the issues that we discuss that.
I do know, I was there, I saw the decibel reading.
Yeah, you were there.
But that wasn't with 20 courts going full-time, that was with 10.
Right.
And it was a windy day. So we had difficulty getting a good reading because of the crickets, which was the real issue. The crickets were too close to us.
The crickets were
So
louder than the pickleball.
I'm going to hold us to reviewing that because this is a nationwide issue, pickleball noise. And we have, you know, this is close to people. I didn't hear a lot of people really, there were some people very concerned about it, so concerned I didn't really necessarily give credence to their argument, saying they couldn't go outside when I couldn't hear it when I was standing there. So, but I do think at the very least in a year, we need to hear back and we need to talk to our constituents, Karen, and just understand what they're hearing and go out there and take those readings. You know, when there's a tournament perhaps and, you know, people that are really slamming out there, it could get loud. So it's a nuisance sound, right? It's not like, it's not nice kids playing, it's pop, 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 and it's, I didn't love pickleball, it'd kill me, so. Yeah.
Alderman Shellpepper.
I got one more thing for Eric, actually. I saw the design, or like maybe like the plan of the overall park that you provided, of, you know, what sports we anticipate, you know, being in there. And on the original plan that I think Craig put together, a draft plan, you know, and this will go back to my tennis roots, there were tennis courts on that plan, and no longer are there tennis courts in the plan that you provided. Are we still, are these 10 additional courts going to foreclose the possibility of 4 tennis courts at Northeast Regional? Because there are no courts, you know, out in that area for tennis courts.
Yeah, and I would say that, you know, that the plan that's in there is more concept, and that has the baseball fields in there. There still would be room to do, because I believe in one of the concepts too, it shows, in addition to those ball fields, tennis courts and a basketball court.
Okay, well, I think we should just get that back in there, into our preliminary plan right now, so it's in there and it doesn't get lost. I'd say that I'm gonna support this additional $200,000 in impact fees tonight. I guess my view on it is, we're gonna be building things at this park, and, you know, we should be building with partners who have an investment in it as well, and this is the only group that I've seen come forward, willing to put forward, you know, significant investments. So to me, it makes sense. I mean, we should be, you know, if we're gonna be picking sports, let's, you know, pick sports of people who have a buy-in to it and wanna help contribute, so.
And Alderman Shellpepper, to try to give a little confidence, when Eric first came on in September, we sat down and talked about the importance of master planning that Northeast Regional. So that is high on his list. I'm not sure where he is right now on it, but I think that point is really well stated. And, you know, I want to make sure that you know it's not just something in 2 years, there's going to be no plan and there's no discussion.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because
I just want
that
to see
has
those
been
courts
discussed.
get back on there in a basketball court, you know, the things that, you know, were a part of that original plan, so.
Good. Other questions or comments?
Yeah, I think that's important, what Chaz just said too, is I want to see it with the tennis courts on there, you know, and how that works, and keeping, you know, the ball diamonds as well. So I think overall that'd be good.
I'd like to entertain a motion.
With the change that I suggested, I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Any further questions or comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman-Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
We look forward to moving forward on that with the Pickleball Club. Thank you, Eric, for your hard work. And we look forward to the follow-up in, I would say, 10 to 12 months once they're completed. I think the comments that were made about sound are something that we should take a little bit more seriously, maybe than my interpretation of it. And I want to make sure that that's a priority as we move forward. Thank you. On to our next item, who's been very, very patient. Consider act on the developer's agreement for the Arrowwood subdivision Phase 3. Sorry to keep you so long. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Okay, so a couple of developer agreements. First one is in the residential subdivision down on the southwest corner of Oconomowoc is the Arrowwood development, and it is the third expansion to this development. Very similar to the first two. This is a sum of 32 lots that are being expanded here, which the agreement will be with the developer to include public sewer, public water, storm, and the road system.
And Council, we have the applicant here as well. Any questions or comments for Mr. Herzog or the applicant?
No.
Again, thank you for your patience in sitting here. I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved, Altman-Cloth.
Second, Mulder.
Any further questions or comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman-Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Next item, consider act on the developer's agreement for the University of Wisconsin Credit Union. Mr. Herzog.
All right, thanks. Yep, similar fashion, this is the developer's agreement with Paps Farms and their group, as this will be more directed just to the sanitary sewer expansion, which will just be going through the property that shares the property line of UW Credit Union and what will be known as the Dunkin' Donuts / Buffalo Wild Wings to go. So in that area, it will service both of those properties and developments, and then the sewer will continue to the south there, which will feed the empty lot adjacent to Fleet Farm. This will be this agreement.
Questions or comments? I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions, comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman-Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Next item, consider act on the approval of the amended Eagles Landing parking lot lease. Attorney Riffle.
So, after years of the parking lot being in service, there were some damages to walls and features that were built there, and there was some discussion related to the, basically the exhibit that was attached to the original lease. And it wasn't super clear, although I think it was, but they didn't necessarily agree with me as to whether or not we should be responsible for paying any part of, that. And, we said no, but in order to not have this problem going forward and to clarify things, what we did basically was redefine the lease area and make it very, very clear that we're responsible not only for the surface of the lot itself, but for the curb as well, because basically that's part of the parking lot. And so staff felt that that was the appropriate way to go. So this lease simply changes the description to make it very, very clear that if there's damage to the curb in the future, that's part of the surface that we would be responsible for. Anything else that's out there with the walls or anything along those lines, that's their responsibility in the future. And we also clarified in those areas where the snow storage is, we're responsible for curbing around there too. So we're just cleaning up something that, there was a disagreement about it, and we recommend that you approve it.
Was the curb
Question?
getting damaged? Who is damaging the curb? Our plow drivers?
Yeah.
So there's, actually in the snow storage areas, we're splitting that cost
Yeah, it's
because,
50-50 now.
because we're gonna say that their contractor that put the snow there damaged it, and they're gonna say that our guys taking it away damaged it, so we just agreed on 50-50.
My only comment is on page 2 of this agreement. We're agreeing to a deal that goes into 2118, which I think is just funny. I hope somebody reviewing this agreement in
99 years.
2118 won't look back and say, God, Riffle, what a terrible job drafting.
$1 a year? I think it's a great deal. Is it against the rule against perpetuities, though?
No, I don't think
It is against the rule for perpetuity.
No, 99 plus 1 year.
I'd like to entertain a motion.
Rozak so moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call roll.
Alderman Maroney?
Aye.
Alderman Rozak?
Aye.
Alderman Altman-Cloth?
Aye.
Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper?
Aye.
Next item, consider act on the need for a January 2nd, 2024 Common Council meeting. Administrator Fry.
Thank you, sir. Looking ahead on the calendar, January 2nd.
So moves, Altman Cloth.
Second.
No, that was your
Third.
job. The minute he stopped talking, you were supposed to make a motion.
Hey, Mark Fry,
Mr.
I make
Mayor.
a motion
Who's in control,
to
Mayor?
not have a meeting on January 2nd, 2024.
You just made the motion?
I just made the motion not to have a meeting on January 2nd, 2024.
Second.
All right.
Any further discussions or comments? Call roll.
Alderman Maroney?
Aye.
Alderman Rozak?
I was doing the right thing.
Aye.
Alderman Altman-Cloth? Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Mulder?
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper?
All right, consider act on the repair or raise order for 203 East Elm Street.
So there's a, 203?
203 South Elm Street.
There's a property over there, and perhaps the older persons in that district know better than I, but it's been a eyesore and a complaint for many, many years. It's been vacant for many, many years. It's owned by a gentleman that doesn't live there, I think, that inherited it or something along those lines and pays zero attention to it. Between your building inspector and your PD and my office, we have exhausted every possible option to try to work with the property owner to knock it down because it is unsafe for human habitation. It has, I've seen pictures, there's holes in the foundation where, you know, a large bear could go through. We don't know if there's been activity in there, right? And the folks in the neighborhood have had it up to here. The recommendation of your building inspector and your police department is to allow us to go forward in circuit court and obtain a order to raise. What that would mean is a summons and complaint filed in circuit court. We'd go in there, we would demonstrate that it's unsafe for human habitation or occupancy. We would seek daily fines and forfeitures because we've already put this individual on notice that he's being fined on a daily basis. But going through municipal court doesn't get you the ability to knock it down. So we asked the court for an order to allow us to go on the property and knock it down, and all of the costs be put on that individual. If he doesn't knock it down, then we would have an order from the circuit court that we can go in, we can knock it down. We can place any unpaid costs associated with knocking it down on his tax bill, which will probably be more than the property is worth, but at least you get the property down and you recover most of your costs.
Questions, discussion? Karen?
When's the last time we did something like this?
I don't think the city, under my involvement, has ever done it.
Hohenberg got a house torn down on Silver Lake Street, so '03.
Oh,
When-
that was,
Okay, so
that was
Yeah,
right.
he'd be able to.
not
do
since
it
any of us
everywhere.
have been in
I
council.
mean,
Okay.
in my municipalities, we have to deal with this all the time.
Oh, no, I'm all for doing it. I'm just
Oh, okay.
curious at the
I
fact
thought
that.
maybe you were worried about,
Oh, no, no.
precedent.
I think there may, no, I think there may be other properties in the city that fall under this eventually too.
There are a few.
Another list.
I mean, come on.
I'd like
do
to,
one at a time.
like to entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Or second?
Call roll, please.
Alderman Maroney.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Altman-Cloth.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
All right, Stan's got his marching orders.
Okay.
Luke has his marching.
Yeah.
Administrator Fry, you have some staff reports for us?
Yeah, and actually, I'll start out, but then Captain Tim's going to have something to talk about. So if you want to make your way up to the podium, Captain. Earlier tonight, I made a comment regarding Jason Herzog, our Director of Public Works, that it was not a true reflection of his abilities here in the city. He's an excellent department head, and he does a great job, and I'm extremely happy that he took that position to be the Director of Public Works, and if there was any offense taken by my attempt at humor, I do apologize. But I did want everybody to know that he is an excellent person. No, I got the easy job. I get to be the first one to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I know in my life I'm truly blessed, and I hope everybody else is too, and just be thankful for everything you have. Captain?
Happy Thanksgiving as well. I just want to let the council know, in the last few days, the police department has been made aware of a scam. The complaints have stated that Chief Pfister has been making phone calls or emails to citizens demanding money for active warrants. Again, this is a total scam. The police department would never email or call asking that. The complaints are saying that if they don't pay right away, that police will come to their door, take them to jail, and they will be in jail for Thanksgiving. We did put it on our social media page, the city and the PD's page today, just allowing the citizens to tell them that this is a total scam and that we would never, ever email or call someone for that. So I just want to let you guys know that.
Is there a Nigerian prince involved?
It is under investigation. I just want to let you know. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Captain.
Any other staff reports? Okay. Reports or comments from Alderman? Karen?
Just come on out and enjoy the German Christmas market this weekend.
Yeah,
Happy
absolutely.
Thanksgiving to everybody.
absolutely.
Tap a cake.
Great. With no other comments, I don't have anything profound to say. Just wish everybody a nice holiday weekend with your friends, your family, and great conversations today and over the last several months. And we've got a lot ahead of us, so it should be fun. Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.